Sorry. Uh, Last Sunday, the New England Patriots lost by 17 points to the Baltimore Ravens. I had a feeling they were going to lose that game. The only reason why I thought that they would lose the game is if they weren't able to get a hat on Lamar Jackson. I think that it would have been a rough road no matter, how the game would have ended. I think it would have been a tough game. Even if they would have won, it would have been a tough game. But the Ravens won. They controlled the ground. They controlled most of the game. The Patriots made a lot of mistakes, and it was a really rough game to watch. Edelman fumble where it just looked like he was trying to extend the play. He was trying to make something happen. And he did a little bit too much, and they were able to knock the ball loose. The Brady interception, it looked like Brady I don't know, man. It just looked like he just said, fuck it. I mean, it just didn't look like he really wanted to. I don't know. It just looked like he gave up in that moment. I don't want to say gave up. It just looked like he just threw a fuck it ball, like where he just threw it up in the air without really a care about whether or not the ball was on target or if it got picked off. It looked like he was just getting rid of it. But every year, New England has these games. It seems like every year for the past 4 years, New England would have one game where they would just lose bad. Before it was Kansas City. Last year it was a string of games. It wasn't just one game in particular. It was the Miami game, the Tennessee game, it was the Pittsburgh game, and people just question whether or not this team can win. Now, when it comes to the schedule of the New England Patriots, I've never been one to say that they had an easy road. To be honest, I think that the record in the playoffs should just squash any comments anybody has about the strength of their schedule, because in the playoffs you're playing the top talent, you're playing the top teams every single week that you play, and I think that trumps. And when you're able to beat a majority of them, I think that trumps how easy your schedule is, if whether or not you're in a bad division or whatever. I think that trumps that. So I don't know. I'm not reading too much into this loss. I'm glad they lost, to be honest. I mean, I've been saying it for a while. I don't want New England to go undefeated. I think that it's so much pressure on a team. Because whether they say they're thinking about it or not, they are thinking about it. They're thinking about that whole undefeated thing, that whole storyline. So it's a major distraction. So getting this loss out the way, or whatever happens after, from this point on, is a good thing. And with the offensive line injuries and, a lot of the other injuries to, offensive players, and just the constant roller coaster the offense has been on, I mean, I'm not surprised that this happened. So I can't wait to see after the bye week what they're able to do. Hopefully they're able to, fix a lot of the issues with the offensive line. And this is the thing, man. It feels like people forget that they went out and they signed a bunch of free agents. I mean, they're pretty much duct taping this offensive line together as much as they can. So I don't know. I'm not really trying to get too. I don't know. I'm not trying to get too excitable about this loss. And I'm trying to just sit back. I'm trying to be as objective as I can, watch the coming days, see what happens. And, I don't know. I'm just not quick to worry. But, I don't know. Let's go.
Patriots suffered their first loss of the season by 17 points to the Ravens on Sunday. Yesterday, Tom Brady said New England can't get too high or low based off their last game. Check out what the QB had to say.
You just have to ignore the hype, and when everything's great, it's really not, and when everything's bad, it's really not. You have to evaluate these weeks for really what they are, even though we've been...
And people are talking about the New England offense like they're so bad that the defense is literally carrying them to victories. Again, the injuries are a huge part of it. Also, I mean, who does he have to work with? I mean, sure, he has Edelman back. They don't really have a tight end. The running game seems to be hit or miss every single week. You don't know if the running game is going to be on or if it's not going to be on. And one of their best receivers, which is Mohamed Sanu, is new to the team, still learning how they work, which is a process. It takes time to learn how they work. They got rid of Josh Gordon. I mean, it's a lot for this offense to deal with. But people forget about that. They don't think about those things when they're talking about how bad this offense is. And then when Tom Brady's getting hit as much as he's getting hit, look, I'm not saying Tom Brady with the right protection is still that MVP caliber quarterback. I'm not saying that, but I mean, how many hits can you take before you're just like, every throw feels like it's just putting a immense amount of pressure on your body. As much as he's getting hit, as bad as this offensive line has been this year. So, I don't know, man.
Winning, we certainly know that it has been great and that we're just this unstoppable team and we have to play good. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Now joined by Fox NFL analyst Eric Mangini. Good morning.
Morning.
Now, knowing that you were Belichick's right-hand man after this loss, how concerned are you about the Patriots?
Well, I think Tom just encapsulated the Patriot way in a very short few sentences. You don't get too high, you don't get too low, and even when things are good, they're not really good, and there's issues. And you look at last game, and it wasn't consistent with the way that they do things. To have the encroachment penalty on the fourth down, which sets up the touchdown, then you've got Edelman's fumble, and then you got Tom Brady's interception, which really is completely uncharacteristic because he just kind of threw it up there, and to be out to lose the emotional game early in that as well. That all those things are not in line with the way that they do business. Now that
and one more thing, because I've been thinking about this for a while. The performance that this defense has put on thus far this season is impressive. And the reason why it's impressive is because we're in an offensive era of football where throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game is not as unheard of as it used to be. And now we have quarterbacks throwing for 5,000 yards every single season. I mean, it's a passing league. This is an offensive league. So the fact that this defense was able to play as well as they did against, look, and not every team was bad. Like before they played Pittsburgh was looked at as a playoff team. They were looked at as a serious contender in the playoffs. Getting rid of Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, everybody thought that team was going to take a step forward because you get some of the distractions out of the locker room. And then after New England completely demolished them, now everybody's looking at Pittsburgh like, oh, well, they're not good anyway. So, Buffalo was a good team. Cleveland was a good team. I mean, we had good teams mixed in there in the middle. I mean, when you look at Miami, the Jets, to be honest, I wouldn't even say the Jets were a bad team, to be honest, at that point when they played them, because they just came off of a huge win against Dallas. I mean, sometimes great talent just exposes just how bad you are. So I think that defense was incredibly impressive so far. And I don't know, just the offensive line, man. I don't know. I don't know. So I'm going to move on because I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. The biggest issue with this team right now that is a major red flag is the offensive line, because the Patriots have done things over the past couple of months that you don't normally see them do, which is go into free agency and just start plucking guys left and right, trying to fill out this offensive line.
Being said, the problems they have are real. The problems they have in the offensive line, those are real, and they're not going away. And they really haven't faced anybody in that first part of this.
One thing I don't agree with right here is that he said that it's not going away. This is a major problem, and it's not going away. There have been times over the past 5 to 7 years where New England has had really questionable offensive line play during the regular season, but for some reason they were able to get it together by the postseason and play somewhat better, protect Brady better. I'm not going to say that this is going to happen this time. It's too early to tell. We don't know what's going to happen, but they have a history of getting it together once the playoffs get there. Well, I believe once the playoffs start, the first game of the playoffs, Mohamed Sanu should be well caught up with the offense. I think the offensive line should either be somewhat healthier or playing better, because it's not easy playing in New England. What they do there is very complicated, and sometimes it takes an adjustment period for you to get used to the way things work. Especially when you come in after the season has already started. It's going to take some time. And apparently they have one of the best offensive line coaches in Dante Scarneggi. So I mean, look, it's hope. So there's no point in getting too down. There's no point in thinking that this team is done, which this is the narrative every single year when New England has a bad loss. It's like every team can lose. New England is the only team that cannot lose, because if they do, that's when the questions start.
Season, except maybe for the Browns, that could create problems. And you saw the Browns had a chance to win that game if they could have gotten out of their own way. And then now you go to Baltimore and you see the issues they have there, losing their tight end. Gronkowski's one component of that, but then you lose Mike Devlin, the tight end / fullback, not having a consistent kicker. Tom's ability under pressure this year has been down substantially in terms of completion percentage. They're running the ball for almost a yard less than they.
This is the reason why his completion percentage is down is because of the injuries, the poor offensive line play, and sure, he is getting older. And that may affect his ability to pass the ball accurately and with power. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's refuting that. But there are so many different factors to the reason why he's playing the way he's playing. There are a lot of factors. I mean, we cannot forget that. It's ignorant just to forget those things.
Historically they're going to struggle. And there's going to be a lot of hurdles for them to overcome, especially over the next 4 or 5 weeks where they've got really challenging opponents, totally different than what they saw in the early part of the season. And this team is going to have to evolve like they traditionally do to fix the problem, and not fix the problem, but to continue to disguise the problems that they inherently have.
Baltimore is an underrated team. Going into the season, a lot of people believe Cleveland was going to win the division or the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to win the division. And I felt like one of the very few people that thought Baltimore is going to win this division. They won it last year. I didn't see them taking that much of a loss in the offseason. I actually thought they got better, especially with the addition of Earl Thomas. I was one of the few people that was like, Baltimore is going to win this division. Baltimore is a really good team, man. And I mean, their offensive line is top notch, especially in the run. Marshall Yanda, who gets no respect or no admiration or apparently no respect from anybody when it comes to effective guards in the NFL, man. But Marshall Yanda is still a very effective guard in the NFL. And when I was watching that game, man, I confidently say it, man. Marshall Yanda was a huge reason why they were able to run the ball the way they were running the ball, man. Because dude is just good, man. He's good. He's consistent. And I'm not going to say that he's the best right guard in the NFL because you do have Zach Martin, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm looking at Marshall Yanda like he is right now the best right guard in the NFL, man. Especially with what he's able to do with a mobile quarterback and a predominantly run heavy, I guess, offense now. I don't think they pass as much anymore, but you know, maybe it's like a run heavy style of offense now. I mean, in a passing league, it's pretty impressive, man. So.
Well, I was always concerned because I don't think the offense has played, with the exception, Skip, of the first game in Pittsburgh. I don't think the offense has really played particularly well. The defense has been outstanding, but
again, injuries. We cannot forget the injuries. It's like people pick and choose what information they want to focus on based on if it helps them or not.
Question was always, D-Man, who have they played? They played very marginal quarterbacks, and they've taken full advantage of that. I think the thing that will concern Coach Belichick, even though they gave up 7 yards a carry against Cleveland, he was like, we was more concerned about the passing game. And so you hitting us up at the end of the game, you're running draws and things of that nature. The Ravens rushed for 210 yards when you know that's what the Ravens want to do. So that's what's going to be most upsetting with him. He prides himself. He loves, and you know this, Coach, he loves big linebackers. You play two gap because you want to shut down the run. And they ran whenever they want to. They got as many yards as they wanted to. And this is what's going to be concerning to him.
And multiple people commented on the advantage that the Baltimore Ravens have on anybody else because their style of offense is so physical. You can't really mimic that in practice. So it's not really something you can like confidently prepare for. And with the way that defenses are handcuffed in their ability to defend quarterbacks now, I mean, if I'm a defender, if I'm a linebacker, cornerback, safety, and Lamar Jackson breaks the pocket, even if I'm able to catch him, I mean, you kind of gotta like watch how you hit these players now. Like literally, even scrambling quarterbacks that get out the pocket. And the rule was before, and this is why I still say Michael Vick is probably one of the most athletic players I've ever seen in my life, or athletic quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life, is because before when quarterbacks would break the pocket and run downfield, you can hit them like they're running backs. You can hit them like they're wide receivers. You can actually hit those guys. I mean, nowadays, you kind of got to, like, watch where you hit them. It's like you only have a certain area where you can target. And if you go too high or too low, it could be like a 15-yard unnecessary roughness penalty or some shit like that. I mean, it's really hard to defend these quarterbacks. And I even said this when it happened with Tom Brady playing against the Kansas City Chiefs a couple years ago, where no, it was last year. It was the game, you know, where they were going back and forth with Patrick Mahomes, where the D lineman got his hands around Brady, but he let him go. I guess because Brady pump faked, so he thought that Brady got the ball out of his hands, and I guess he didn't want a roughing penalty, so he let him go. And Brady ran into the end zone because he still had the ball in his hands. I mean, things like that, it affects the way these defenders defend, man. We have to take in consideration those things. All right? When we're talking about the way Baltimore played, it's really hard to defend these quarterbacks nowadays. I mean, it's rough, man. So I'm willing to give New England a pass, and I'm not giving them a pass because, you know, I like the team. I'm giving them a pass because it's one loss, and it's not like the Baltimore Ravens have proven in the playoffs recently that they can get the job done. They haven't really gotten the job done since they had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed on the team. So I don't know, man. I'm not trying to get too high on it.
He likes guys that can set the edge. Well, when Lamar Jackson wanted to turn the edge, he got the edge. When whatever Mark Ingram, whatever he wanted, he got. That's what's going to be upsetting with him. And like you said, they got some teams that can pose this defense some problems moving forward. The Cowboys, because they can run it and they can throw it. The Eagles, it will be a problem for them when they come out this bye week. That's going to be a problem. So they have some teams that can exploit some of their weaknesses. And you have a team, the Cowboys and the Eagles somewhat can get after you. Now, and I've told Skip this, Tom has not played as well as Tom would have liked to play. I think sometimes we get enamored with whether they're 8-0 or they're 7-0 and Tom Brady's the quarterback. But if you look at his play has been down from where it was the last several years. And there's no way to skirt that. And when you can't run it, Skip, it's kind of hard to hide your quarterback with some of the flaws.
Yeah, again, the offensive line is the issue. And I'm not saying Tom would be a top quarterback in the NFL with the proper protection, but he wouldn't be as almost ineffective in his in the production that Tom Brady provides every single year. He's almost ineffective this year, and it's mainly because of the offensive line. And if we're going to look at other things, it's the injuries to wide receivers, the fact that they had to bring in some new guys. I mean, no tight ends. I mean, you don't need Gronk. You would love to have Gronk, but you don't need Gronk. You just need a competent, consistent tight end out there. The running game is hit or miss. I mean, the run game has been really suspect this year, man. They had, one or two games where the running game was pretty much on point. The run game has been pretty hit or miss. And again, you can go to the offensive line with that stuff. Offenses are driven on whether or not they have good, great, poor, bad offensive line play. I mean, a great offense can be stifled from a bad offensive line, man. And a bad offense can be bolstered by a good offensive line. Look at the Indianapolis Colts. That team is not a great team talent-wise. But because their offensive line is so damn good, I mean, they're playing so far beyond their talent level. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, man. Like, we have to consider those things. But I don't know, man. I may finish the rest of the video, but the point of this video was to not get too high or not to get too low, you know, with these losses, because New England has shown in the past that all they have to do is get to the playoffs, and then it's anybody's game, and usually they are able to take out the opponent. So, I mean, sometimes you got to use history as the best barometer for what may happen in the future. And I'm not saying New England is going to be great this postseason. They may lose in the first round or whatever, the first game they play. It could happen, but I don't know. I don't believe it unless I see it. So, all right.